7 months after the outbreak of the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the energy issue has become the focus of the three-way wrestling between the United States, Russia, and Europe. At this time, an important natural gas pipeline between Russia and Europe suddenly exploded underwater and leaked natural gas. However, Putin's troubles are not just the explosion on the Nord Stream pipeline. After suffering from a series of sanctions, the Putin's government used energy as a weapon to compete with the United States and Europe. While attacking Europe by means of cutting off supplies, it launched more cooperation with China, India, and other countries. However, recently, in the context of the good development of Sino Russian energy cooperation, some Western media throw a wet blanket on Russia, claiming that China has changed its attitude and began to intentionally control the import volume of crude oil from Russia. So, is it true? Under the increasingly complex international situation, what is China's oil policy? Hi! Welcome to Auto Age. Before we started today's video, please subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Okay, let's get started. According to Reuters, China has now become Russia's largest oil buyer. In August this year, China's total crude oil imports from Russia increased by 28% over the same period last year, reaching 8.342 million tons. However, Russia has not been able to dominate the Chinese market. Instead, Saudi Arabia, whose energy exports to China have grown relatively slowly in the past 4 months, has regained the title of China's top crude oil supplier with a supply of 8.475 million tons. In fact, it is nothing new for Russia to lose to Saudi Arabia in crude oil exports to China. As China's two most important energy suppliers, Saudi Arabia and Russia have been exporting roughly the same amount of crude oil to China. Therefore, Russia was overtaken by Saudi Arabia this time, not as Reuters and other Western media said, because China is deliberately controlling the amount of energy imported from Russia, but more probably because of the role of the market. You must know that Russian crude oil has maintained a strong position in exports to China, mainly because Saudi Arabia has focused its oil exports on the European market with higher oil prices. In addition, the Putin government intends to increase exports to China, and has been selling crude oil to countries such as China at a price lower than the global average price. Therefore, the change in the export ranking this time can only show that Saudi Arabia has not given up the Chinese market. In addition, this change also shows that China is still insisting on building a diversified energy supply system, and has not beloved a single country because of factors such as prices. According to data from the General Administration of Customs, in August this year, China imported a total of 40.354 million tons of crude oil, of which 16.817 million tons were imported from Saudi Arabia and Russia, accounting for 41.6% of the total imports. But nearly 60% of China's imported crude oil comes from other countries and regions. For example, in 2021, among China's top 10 oil source countries, in addition to Russia and a group of Middle Eastern countries represented by Saudi Arabia, Malaysia in Asia, Angola in Africa, Brazil in the Americas, and Norway in Europe will all be on the list. On the one hand, it fully reflects the diversification of China's energy sources. China's global layout, trying to obtain energy from different directions, is actually not unrelated to the reality of China's energy industry. Although China's oil reserves are no less than that of oil-producing countries such as Qatar and Norway, and it also has advanced oil extraction technology, in the context of rapid economic development, China's own crude oil extraction has long been unable to meet the growing domestic demand. Therefore, importing a large amount of crude oil to supplement the domestic market has become China's current best choice. But we have already seen that in the chaotic and complex international situation, as an energy importer, there is always the danger of being sanctioned. Therefore, China has been opening up energy import channels and making arrangements in advance to avoid being caught off guard when a crisis occurs and to ensure the stability of China's energy supply. After the Russian-Ukrainian War, Europe faced the dilemma in the energy field because its energy supply was not diversified enough. In addition, the leak of the Nord Stream natural gas pipeline has made Europe's situation even worse. Nord Stream is the hope of peace in Germany and even Europe. To this day, Europe is still under the illusion that if there is a truce, maybe it can be restarted and the order will return to normal. Now this faint light of peace is completely extinguished. So this is the end of 30 years of Europe's quest for independence, the European version of the Plaza Accord. The destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline made it impossible for Germany to turn back, and the German-Russian relationship was drawn into an iron curtain. It was like the new Berlin Wall was erected in Europe again, and no one could resist. In 77 years after the war, the Germans endured humiliation and took the initiative to give up force and seek a way of peaceful development. After finally surviving until the end of the Cold War, and the world's peaceful development brought a glimmer of light, Germany, which has pleaded guilty, hopes to turn the page of history and start anew in a peaceful way. However, after Kohl, Gerhard Schroeder and Merkel fought for the right to peaceful development for 30 years, but now, everything has changed. This is actually a good proof that China's layout in the energy field is far more long-term than that of the West, which is currently facing an energy crisis. In addition, in China's energy import system, the proportion of each supplier country also changes from time to time. After the Russian-Ukrainian War started and Europe fell into an energy crisis, Norway, which was the 10th largest import source of China's crude oil, began to change its strategy and sell more oil to Europe, but this did not affect the market shares of China. Norway's market share was quickly filled by South America's oil exporter, Colombia. With the influence of the Belt and Road Initiative, it is a sure thing for oil-producing countries such as Iran and Kazakhstan to strengthen cooperation in the energy field with China. By then, China's goal of diversifying its energy import structure will be further implemented. The Nord Stream explosion once again sounded the alarm for the energy security of every country. On the whole, the international community now basically believes that the leak caused by the underwater explosion was a deliberate sabotage. But for who is the real behind the scenes, I am afraid it is difficult to come to a conclusion for a while. The only thing that can be determined now is that the energy crisis in Europe will intensify for some time to come. The fundamental way to solve the energy crisis as soon as possible is naturally the truce between Russia and Ukraine, but this war has already involved too many contradictions and disputes. For China, efforts in the field of energy security still need to be multi-pronged. On the one hand, it needs to insist on expanding energy import channels and maintain diversification of energy supply. On the other hand, China must vigorously promote the development of industries such as new energy. In this way, China can realize the strategic goal of diversification in multiple dimensions as soon as possible in the field of energy. Okay, that's all for today. Your precious time with us is highly appreciated. See you.